If you're watching on YouTube, no, you're not seeing weird things. This is a crossover episode combining my two podcasts, Dating Déjà Vu and the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. And we're talking about a subject that I thought, hey, all of y'all need to hear. So welcome back to the show. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we have honest conversations about food, body, exercise, and mindset. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed associate marriage and family therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. And we have candid conversations about how your mind, your body, and your identity are one integrated system and teach you how to treat it accordingly. So if you're a high-performing individual who loves educational, thoughtful, and no bullshit conversations around health and wellness, you're in the right place. Here we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. So there's a moment in pretty much every long-term relationship where one of you looks up from your phone, right? You look at your partner who's also on your phone, and you've got whatever show playing in the background. And you quietly think, when was the last time we had sex, actually had sex? And then you do the math, and the math is bad. And it's not that anything's wrong because you still laugh together. You still text each other dumb memes, or if you're like my husband, just send Instagrams about dogs back and forth. But somewhere between the move, the new job, the kids, the stress of having kids, the routine, the Netflix queue, the laundry pile, that sex relationship just kind of left. And nobody said anything about it. It just walked out of the back door without telling anyone it was leaving. And if you're like, oh my God, she's talking to me. Is Christina in our house? This episode is for you, right? And let's bring your partner in if we want to, because what we're about to talk about is so important. This is a couples episode. So welcome back, guys. Whether you're a Déjà crew from the Dating Déjà Vu show, which is my show about relationships and dating and modern dating, or if you're part of the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we need a name for listeners. Welcome back to the show. This is probably one of many in the future crossover episodes, because oftentimes when I'm talking or writing for the show, I'm thinking, wow, actually both of my podcasts could benefit from this. And let's be honest, it's easier for me. Just kidding. So today's topic is one that is most Googled, but least talked about. And it's least talked about, especially in long-term relationships. I have a lot of conversations about this topic, and it's sex. Specifically, over time, why your sexual health in your relationship changes. Today, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what a healthy sex life actually looks like instead of what we see on TV or in movies or what a romance novel says back to us. Then we're going to talk about how to bring back romance and passion back into your life when it quietly has checked out. And I'm going to be direct with you because I think we would do a disservice when we tiptoed around this issue. I don't know if you guys know this, but my whole goal of getting a bachelor's in psychology was to become a sex therapist, because for many reasons, I didn't realize the latter, but the first was to educate about sex, because I thought our sex education system in my high school was absolutely garbage. But also later on, realizing it's such a topic that people are so afraid to talk about. So with that said, heads up, we're talking about sex, we're talking about desire, arousal, all of it. So if you've got little ears in the car, maybe download this for later. Okay. Also, fair reminder that yes, I am a therapist in the state of Arizona, not currently practicing. I will be sharing with you some info about that for my Arizona guys and gals. So I don't want you to take this as therapy. If there's something physical, medical, or trauma related going on with you and your partner, go see a professional. Go see a professional that specializes in these areas. This episode is a 30,000-foot view of the conversation, and I want it to be a place where we can help start the conversation. So we good? Kids out of the room? All right, let's go. So number one, let's talk about the trajectory of sex in your relationship. So I want to map out what actually happens over the lifespan of the relationship when it comes to sex, because I think that part of why couples panic when it slows down is that nobody ever told them that it is normal. It is normal. They thought that that honeymoon phase would just be their whole relationship and that it's supposed to last forever. And when it doesn't or didn't, they assume something was wrong. It's not, nothing's wrong. So let's get into it. So for the first 6 months to, 2 years of your relationship, we're going to consider that your honeymoon phase. Your brain is essentially on drugs. Literally. I am not exaggerating. You've got dopamine surging every time you see that person. You've got norepinephrine giving you this kind of fluttery, anxious feeling, right? So excited. Oh, I miss that feeling. You've got phenylethylamine making you obsessed with that person. And hopefully I said that right. And oxytocin and vasopressin are starting to bond you to that individual. Drugs. The brain is literally focused on only that. You can't eat. You can't sleep. You're sending messages at all hours of the night. You want to be on top of each other constantly. And sex is easy because the desire is automatic. All of those hormones make it where it just happens. You don't have to try to want them. Like, you just want them, right? And it's like, woo, love it. It's so fun. It really is. But the problem is this is not the baseline, y'all. This is not the baseline, because these chemical states in your body are what help attract us to each other, to help recreate and reproduce, to have our species survive, right? Your body is in a chemically almost stress state, if you want to think about it, but it can't sustain that state of being, okay? It did its job, right? Because if we sustained that constant oomph, we never get anything done, right? We would never get anything done. We'd never build the life. We'd never build around us. So your brain, your body wisely eventually turns the volume down. So that gets us into phase 2, which is the settling phase. So somewhere around years, we'll say 1 to 3, 2 to 4, depending on the couple, things start to mellow out, right? That dopamine cocktail recedes and oxytocin becomes the hormone of choice. And again, it's a dominant hormone, and it helps us connect and bond with our person. This is what creates warmth. This is what creates safety, but it also doesn't have the same fireworks as when things started. And this is where a lot of couples panic, because the sex used to happen 3 times a day. Maybe it's only happening 3 times a week, maybe even 3 times a month, right? And that's such a big difference that you're like, oh my God, we are losing it. Abort mission. What is happening, right? And I think it's important to note this and share this with your partner, because the normalcy of it, normalizing it is so important, because I think it also helps us to not, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say it out loud, and then I'm going to explain why. It helps us not have a wandering eye, because wandering eyes are not always about the sex, by the way. That's why I didn't want to say that. But it's like, no, this is a normal part of my relationship. I'm realizing I'm building a bond and this life with this person, and all of those fluttery hormones are being replaced with bond building hormones. And that alone can make us feel really good. So I just wanted to say that. So what's actually happening is your relationship is shifting from what we call passionate love to companionate love. Okay. There are actually, I believe it's 8 triangles of love. Maybe I'll do an episode on that on Dating Déjà Vu about what the different triangles are. But these are both real types of love. And what I want you to realize is a lot of people they interchange intimacy with passion. They're 2 very different things. Intimacy is into me, you see. And that bond and connection is where intimacy happens. Passion does not need intimacy, you guys. That's why we have one-night stands. We don't know shit about that person, but we're like, yeah, let's go. I've never done that. Just kidding. I want you to realize that those are 2 very different things. And both are valuable in your life, right? Passion is very valuable. Connection is very valuable, but they feel completely different in your body. And no one really tells you about that. And I think it's important for us to recognize it. Okay. So that moves us into phase 3, which is the infrastructure phase. And this is basically year 3 through the rest of your life, together. And this is where the relationship actually runs on something other than chemistry, because the chemistry, again, has settled. This is where life starts stacking up because you've built a life together. Careers, mortgages, kids, sick parents, health stuff, stress. The mental load is just running this adult life with somebody else. And it's not that fun, but it also makes life, right? This is the phase where sex does not happen by accident or spontaneity anymore. And that's not true for everyone. And if you're like, no, Christina, I have a great sex life, then obviously I'm not talking to you. In the honeymoon phase, right, sex is a side effect of being near the other person. Whereas in the infrastructure phase, sex has to be chosen. You have to create it, you have to protect it, or it just doesn't happen. That's the truth about long-term relationships, again, that most people don't tell you. And when it starts happening, you're like, WTF, right? So, what is a healthy sex life in a relationship? And the truth is that a lot of people and therapists will even tell you a certain number. So, to me, there's no magic number or benchmark. It's really up to the couple. But studies on this are actually pretty wild. So I'm just going to read my screen. The research generally suggests that couples who have sex once a week report the highest relationship satisfaction. But the variance on that is huge. Some couples are happy with 2 times a month, twice a month. Some couples are happy with 4 times a week, right? The number is not the metrics. The metric is just what it is. Do both partners feel desired? Do both partners feel safe enough to talk about what they want? Do they feel safe enough to initiate sex? Do they feel safe enough to, let's face it, have a malfunction here and there and be okay with it? That's really important, right? Do the partners feel like the sex they're having is connecting them to each other, not just like a chore that you have to do? I was talking to my girlfriends over the weekend, and one of them said, like, sometimes I just do it to appease him because he gets cranky. I thought that was funny. But then she said, once I'm doing it, I'm like, why don't we do this more? Right. And so it's kind of like getting past that, like, chore appeasing, not keeping him cranky, getting that out of the way and reminding yourself, like, I also enjoy it. Right. And again, someone can have a healthy sex life, but not have a high frequency of sex. That is important for you guys to recognize. A healthy sex life is one where the conversation around sex is open. Having a conversation to say, I miss this, right? Or I'm not feeling it tonight, but I love you. Like, this isn't a rejection. This is just something I'm feeling inside. And I want you to know that, right? It's talking about sex without it becoming a fight or becoming demeaning or frustrating. You hear those like passive aggressive comments, and this conversation of like reminding you about how many times you reject me, right? That's not what this is. This is where both people feel like they're in it together and that they are not negotiating against each other. Okay. You can have sex 5 times a week in an unhealthy relationship. Believe me, I know that, right? Especially in passionate love that doesn't have companionship and doesn't have safety and security and intimacy. You can have a toxic as fuck relationship and be having sex all the time. I watch these silly shows like Perfect Match, this and that. One girl's like, oh, I love breakup sex. I'm like, what? That's so weird. Like, So like, that's wrong. Like that shouldn't be your favorite type of sex, right? It should be connected sex. But anyways, coming back to my notes because I'm just going to go off on the perfect match. Are you tired of wasting your money on diet and exercise program that leave you feeling pretty much the same? You're spinning your wheels, but the food noise is still there, the body dysmorphia, the overtraining and not seeing results, the emotional eating, it's all still there. But you don't think you have an option because they're pretty much all the same. What if the next program you invest in combines therapeutic practice with exercise and nutrition science and behavioral change? What if this program focuses on what you say in your mind so that you can have a better relationship on what you see in the mirror? Hi, I'm Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach, and I'm the founder of the Mindset and Matter coaching program. Here, we see your mind, your body, and your identity as one integrated system and treat it as such. We focus on your self-defeating beliefs and understand how they impact your behaviors and thus the outcomes that you feel stuck in. We do this through the Mindset Method, my psychological curriculum that I've curated with over 15 years experience and adapted it to you, the average woman, and this coaching program. This is one method, one program, one coach, and let's face it, the one area you've probably never done the work on. So if you're tired of spinning your wheels and wasting your money, check out the link below for more information. The other part is like you can have sex 5 times a week, but it could feel like an obligation to you, like something you're forced to do. And what I mean by forced is not SA. I mean, just in your mind, you feel like you're forced to do it, but you can have sex twice a month and feel completely fulfilled and feel like you have a beautifully healthy sex life that is mutual, it's present, and it's connected. Okay. So let's drop this idea of metrics per se and pick up those questions I told you. And the question that I really want you guys to be thinking about is, are we both showing up in this part of our relationship, or has one of us quietly opted out? Answer the question. So why does sex become less of the focus? So obviously this is Dating Déjà Vu, where we talk about all things dating and relationships. And it's also the mindset mirror connection, where I believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror, and that is true in your sexual relationship. Okay. And there are 2 different buckets that I'm going to talk about today. There's the cognitive and emotional side, and then there is the physical and physiological state. So we're going to talk about those 2. So the cognitive and emotional load, as you know, is incredibly important to be. It's something that we talk about in all areas of the body, but I want you to realize that desire is not just about your body. Desire requires mental space. Let's start over. Let's just start over with all of that. So why sex becomes less of the focus. So let's talk about why sex becomes less of the focus. So we've talked about why this happens. I want to split this up into 2 buckets to talk about how they require a different response, right? So you have the cognitive and mental side of this, and then you have the physical and physiological side of this. So the cognitive and emotional load, this is the bucket that not a lot of people talk about, because desire is not just about your body. Desire requires mental space. And as you go on into your relationship, most of you have crazy schedules, right? And in terms of your relationship, you've basically given the mental space for desire to a million other things, right? I guess we can all agree on that, right? So think about what's running in your head on Tuesday night at 9 p.m. The work email you forgot to send, the dentist appointment you need to schedule for your kids, the thing your mom said to you on Sunday, did you hit your macros, right? The dog needs to go out and go potty or hasn't gone potty. And now you're thinking about the fact that the dog's going to wake you up in the middle of the night and it's going to ruin your sleep. Plus you have groceries. Oh no, also we don't have a grocery list. Okay. The fact that you are running these things in your head, do you feel like you're going to be wanting sex, right? So when your partner comes up behind you and tries to be affectionate to you, your nervous system is full of all your other tabs are open, right? So there is no bandwidth for desire. And honestly, when you're running like that, that touch can feel prickly. I'm saying this because I understand too that touch can feel very off-putting, and that's why we react in that way, like, no, not tonight. And that's really not the way we should be reacting, right? Being able to again have those conversations and say, I've got a lot running through my head right now, and my body is not feeling like intimate, or don't say intimate, say passionate, romantic, sexual, whatever word you want to use. Oh my God. Speaking of that, if you guys haven't heard, I think it's Casey Musgrave's song. What is it called? Dry Spell. Hilarious song. So when you have that mental cognitive load and you say no, it's not that you don't love your person or even find them desirable. It's that you literally have no neurological space for arousal to land in your brain. And then there's resentment, right? And resentment is a silent killer, a silent sex killer, specifically in long-term relationships. Because if you feel like you've been carrying more than your partner, whether that's mental load, household responsibilities, your body cannot just flip a switch from, I've been doing everything all day, you don't help me, to I want you. Sorry, it's not going to happen. It doesn't work that way. And so resentment and arousal cannot live in the same nervous system. It just cannot happen. I mean, as much as we think we can just make someone smile, sex, you might be able to do that with a girl in your office who you absolutely hate and be like, hi, Nancy, right? And do the fake ass smile. We can't do that with our bodies because sex is so personal. It's so intimate, right? We can't do that. There's also an identity shift, right? Especially what my clients after kids, after big career moves, even after health changes, perimenopause and menopause being with some of those, right? You start seeing yourself as the mom, as a provider, as a caretaker, as a patient, as a project manager, as a CEO. And let's face it, those identities don't usually feel sexy. I want them to. I want you to feel sexy as a mom. I want you to feel sexy as a leader, not to like for anyone else, just in yourself. But that's maybe another conversation we have at another time. So when your partner reaches for you in a sexual way, right? You've already decided that you're just not a sexual person right now, that all of these other hats that you wear are more important, and you are whatever everyone else needs from you. That's who you are. You're not a sexual person. You're what everyone else needs person, right? And finally, there's boredom. Boredom, not necessarily with the person that you're with, but boredom in the script that you run. I mean, how many of us have sex the same way over and over and over again? Not that that's terrible, but it can get kind of boring, right? So it's not only boredom in your sex life, it's boredom in your life in general. Like every day, like it's the same shit. And so the novelty is gone in your relationship. And novelty is one of the biggest drivers to desire, actually, that we know of. And so when we get stuck in these mundane routines, I mean, my husband and I have a routine. I am not safe from this. And it's just like Groundhog's Day every day. And for me, that's why weekends are so important to me. And going out, like this weekend, we went out to a brand new area and it was so fun and it was just a wonderful time. So novelty, though, is a main driver in desire. So we'll talk about that here in a sec. But let's talk about the physical and physiological side of things too. Hormone shifts, like I talked about, especially for women, this is huge. Perimenopause, menopause, postpartum, birth control change, right? All of these affect the hormonal landscape. and directly affect your libido and arousal, which I've had a whole conversation on arousal issues. Check out this on Mindset Mirror Connection. I did a whole episode on that. But for men, testosterone naturally decreases with age as well. Stress can also tank these things even further. Dr. Jordan Chop has put me on testosterone and DHEA and a stress calming hormone so that I can get my stress down because it's affecting my testosterone. Crazy, right? Then we put into things like sleep deprivation. That's going to affect your body in ways that nobody talks about. If you're chronically underslept, your body literally does not have the resources for you to want to be excited and aroused. It will not produce sexual desire, right? Think about it. Biologically speaking, sex is a luxury function, and it's also technically used for reproduction. So if we're sleep deprived and we're stressed out, your body is not going to prioritize reproduction and connection and oxytocin and all the things that go bing bong bing when you're having sex. It's just not going to do it. It's just not going to do it. Medications on top of this can cause a lot of issues with libido. Antidepressants especially, but also some blood pressure medications and birth control pills can affect, and others really, can directly affect your arousal and your libido. Okay. So if you've started something new and you're starting to see a shift, it's worth talking to your doctor about. When I was trying to choose the best ADHD medication for myself, this was a big deal because I did a lot of research and I read a lot of Reddit subreddit streams about this exact thing on the choice of medications that I could take, because I don't want to take an upper, if you will. I wanted to take something that wasn't a stimulant. I didn't want to take a stimulant. So I had other options, and some of them are actually antidepressants that also show to be helpful with ADHD. But again, we got to think antidepressant. Even GLP-1s, I've heard, can do this, where that I want part of your brain is quieted down. And that's where that food noise is quieted down, but it's also quieting down other parts of your brain. The antidepressants work very similarly, right? And let's talk about it. Pelvic floor and like just pelvic pain in general, whether that's endometriosis, whether that's fibroids, whether that's pelvic floor issues. Like, this is so under discussed. Again, on the Mindset Mirror Connection, I did a whole episode on this. If sex hurts, you're not going to want to do it, right? And this could be for pelvic floor and pelvic issues. This also could be because you haven't had sex in so long that your body's like, what's happening? That is true too. That's obviously not a mindset problem. That's a physiological problem. Your body is protecting you, and working with a pelvic floor specialist, that is going to change your life. Okay. So do that. There's also some medications that help with that as well. So you could also speak to your OBGYN, your primary care physician, if they do actually spend time with you and want to know what's going on with your life. Your general fitness and energy is also going to be really important. How you take care of yourself. If you're getting winded walking up and down stairs, you're probably not going to be in the mood to just randomly have sex, right? Your body's general physical capacity affects your sexual capacity. And I think that's really important for us to realize. They're not separate systems. It's physical, right? And so that's where we see a lot of these things slow down. Okay, so now we're here, right? You know what what healthy means, right? You know why it slowed down. The question is, what do we do about it, right? What do we do about it? And I'm going to give you 5 things, but I want to be clear that how I'm structuring these things and the order that they're in does matter for you. We're going to start, of course, internal, and then we're going to go external, okay? Because you can't fix the bedroom by going straight into the bedroom. You have to fix the conditions that led you to where you're at. And I'm here to tell you, not a fucking surprise, that most of this is internal. So 4 of the shifts are in your mind. 1 shift is behavioral, but they all build on each other. So if you skip the early ones and just jump into let's schedule sex, it won't work. It's not going to work for you. So the infrastructure really, really matters. So number 1, my loves, I don't care how old you are, You need to reclaim yourself as a sexual person. I know. This is the foundation under everything else. It's the one that couples skip because they feel it's selfish, especially mothers. It is not selfish, right? You cannot bring sexual energy to your partner if you're completely disconnected from your own sexual desire. If you've spent the last 3 years as mom, executive, the responsible one, you've really disconnected from the sexual being of who you are, because all of those things require you to give your attention to everything else, and you're not giving attention back to yourself, right? And again, you're not going to magically flip on a switch when your partner enters the room. So this means individually for both you and your partner, we need to get reacquainted with our own body and our own desires. Notice what you find attractive. Notice what you wear that makes you feel attractive, right? Notice what turns you on. Notice what does not turn you on, but mainly notice what turns you on. This is a funny story. This morning, actually, I was working with my coach, my Olympic lifting coach, and I was watching, we always watch like CrossFit or like Olympic lifting. We just throw something on YouTube. And there was a guy's hot. I was like, that guy's hot. And I was like, ooh, I noticed that. And I said, sorry, Mark. He was one of the guys. Anyways, notice these things. Read things that are sexy. We love, what do they call it? No. Oh, you guys are yelling at me. Like the romance novels. Read that. Wear things that make you feel sexy. Not necessarily for your partner. Wear things that make you feel sexy. Like, your sex appeal is so important. It's not everything, but I think oftentimes with society, we kind of go all or nothing with sex and sex appeal. But it's like, no, like I can feel sexy. Like this weekend we went to that area that is, it's called Cave Creek. And it's like cowboy town. So I put on cowboy boots and a skirt and I had like a similar, actually this bodysuit I'm wearing in white. And I felt great. I felt so good about myself. I walked around that bitch like I owned it and I loved it. So figure out what it is that you like, what you're attracted to, what you don't like. Read The Smug. That's what it's called. And get into it. And again, this isn't about prepping you for your partner. This is about remembering you're a full-ass human. You're a full-ass human with sexual parts of you that still exist, right? They still exist. Because when both of these you and your partner do this individually, you both show up to the relationship with something to bring, something to honor in yourselves, instead of two depleted people who have nothing to give from the start. So reconnect to your sexual self. Number 2, have the conversation. Most couples do not have real conversations about sex. They'll say something like passive aggressive, like, you never want to have sex anymore. Why do you always turn me down? Right? And it's always thrown out like in the middle of a fight about something else, or like when they feel rejected because you have turned them down. Okay. And what that creates is assumptions. It also creates, again, resentment. Oh, hold on. I gotta adjust. But what couples usually don't do is actually have the conversation during the daytime, fully dressed, and said, hey, we need to talk about this part of us, right? You need to have that conversation, and it needs to happen not when you're tired, not when you're drinking, not at night. It needs to happen when you're present and focused and have the energy to do it, okay? I'm going to read off of this because I think the questions that I wrote down are incredibly important. Like, if you're thinking about like, well, what would I say? Again, what do you miss? What do you miss about our sex life? What feels different for you? What's getting in the way of this for you right now, right? What would feel good to try? Is there anything you've been wanting to say but haven't, or try that you haven't? And these conversations are so important. The first conversation is going to feel really awkward, right? And awkward beats avoidant. So if you're feeling awkward, that actually means that you're doing something or you're feeling uncomfortable, like I say all the time. Okay. Most couples have not spoken these types of statements in a long time or sentences out loud or never even answered these questions. So, of course, it's going to feel awkward at first. But the point of the conversation isn't going to solve everything in 45 minutes. The point of the conversation is to open the topic without having to be radioactive about it, right? You can talk about sex in a way that feels safe, that feels comfortable in your relationship, where it's normal, it's an ongoing conversation, and it's always evolving. So have the conversation, you guys, okay? I had a thought and it left my mind. Hopefully it comes back. Okay. Number 3 is rebuild non-sexual touch. So this one is one that couples oftentimes miss. They think my sex life is the problem, so they try to go straight to sex. And it's going to backfire on you, because when sex is the only physical contact that you have, as I mentioned earlier, every touch becomes very loaded, right? Every hug feels like an advancement, right? Every kiss feels like a transaction, and we don't want that for you. I want you to rebuild touch that has nothing to do with sex first. Hand on the back when you cross each other in the kitchen. Holding hands while you're on a walk, maybe a real hug. Something I do with Mark midday is I'll go into his room and I go I shoo him away from his desk. I sit on his lap and I give him a hug, and I'll say something stupid that has nothing to do with anything. And then I leave the room. That's something that we do probably a few times a week, right? Rather than this kind of side hug bullshit. Sitting close to each other on the couch, crossing legs on the couch rather than sitting on opposite ends of the couch, right? Kissing without it being a precursor to anything. And not just the kiss. I'm not going to lie to you guys. When I'm just out of it, I don't kiss back well. And it's something that I'm working on. And so even passionate kissing without it having to lead to sex, that's something I want you guys to build up, because this is the bridge back, right? Intimacy lives in touch. It lives in touch, and you have to remind your body that it can be safe. It can be safe. It can feel very connected, feel very warm, right? And pleasurable without it having to lead anywhere. I always like to say, you have to remember why you picked this person, whether you're married or not. And what is the difference between that person and a friend? It's going to be that passion and romance. Intimacy can happen in friendships, right? Because you can create a very intimate, vulnerable bond with people. But that touch and that caress and that love, that is what sets them apart from everybody else. And once that's reestablished, desire has somewhere to go, right? Desire has a place to grow. But without it, hold on. Okay. Let's try that again. And once that's reestablished, desire has something to grow from, right? Desire has a place to say, okay, all right, I like this. This feels good to me. Let's take it a step further, right? But without it, every attempt just feels like a cold start. Like you're going 0 to 100 when it comes to sex. And honestly, no, fuck that. We're not doing that. Okay. So This is the easiest one that you guys can start with today. If you're sitting on the couch today, maybe sit closer. Maybe put your legs over them or play footsie or just hold hands. Maybe get off your freaking phone. I mean, again, these are things I'm still working on in my relationship. So again, I'm not safe from this. Number 4 is create novelty on purpose, right? So remember, I said novelty is the biggest driver to desire. But we sometimes have to engineer it because in long-term relationships, they become very predictable. And that's normal, right? It's kind of the reason we're here. Predictability gives us that safety, it gives us connection. Predictability is also, though, unfortunately, what kills the spark. You're just living your life, right? Doing the thing. So you have to build novelty on purpose. And it doesn't necessarily mean building novelty in the bedroom quite yet, although that is part of it, but novelty in your relationship as a whole. So taking a class together or learning something new together or, going somewhere you've never traveled before, even if it's just nearby. That's what we did this weekend. Trying a restaurant together, maybe in a different part of town that you don't usually go to, or having date night where you can actually get dressed up like you used to when you were younger. That's one of my favorite things to do is actually get dressed up, because I remember when we first started dating, listen, the amount of bodycon dresses that I owned and heels was insane. If I look, I have pictures and pictures and pictures of me dressed up and ready, like, look at, I'm your girl, look at me. And I still do that. That is actually something I will say that whether it was going out this weekend or even around the house, like other than me being sick for the past 2 weeks, I put my shit together and it's for me. That's my preference. But I also want my person to look at me and be like, oh, but that's not what we're talking about. Anyways, another thing you can do is doing something physical together, right? Like doing a hiking date or lifting together, that's going to a dance class, whatever that looks like. Anything that shakes you out of the Tuesday night on the couch loop is going to create novelty. And novelty does two things here. It's going to activate the dopamine system, which is obviously what we want, that fueled our honeymoon phase. And we'll actually get a little chemical bump from doing something new together. And number 2, it lets you see your partner in a different setting, in a different context. It lets you see them again almost for the first time instead of looking past them as this memory. You get to see them in this new way, in this new place, and you're kind of navigating it together. And so novelty really can create a new sense of connection for you. I even just think of like, I think about getting Liberty and like how, because when we did get Harlem together, but Harlem was really easy dog. And Liberty was too, but just Liberty's different. And, going through the loss of Brooklyn and then, even that, like going through the loss of my dad, not saying to lose anyone for novelty. That is not what I'm saying here. Or making that novel. But like that was such an impact on our lives. I could see my husband differently than I saw him before. We're not going to take it to that level. We're going to bring it to a different level, but it really does create a new sense of connection. And number 5 is let's try that again. Number 5 is to protect the conditions no matter what. This is more practical, as I mentioned, but it ties it all together. And so you cannot expect like spontaneous passion. Maybe that's happening, but in a very, very structured life, we're probably just not getting naked in the middle of the day. I mean, listen, you guys, hopefully my in-laws and my mother are not listening to this, but we work from home together all day long. I could go jump his bones if I wanted to. Do I? No. Like maybe other people do, and kudos to you, but I just got too much shit going on, right? And so if both of you collapse in bed at 10 a.m. every night, or you're on your screens for hours and hours, you're exhausted, you're irritated, you're drained, you're tired, No amount of love is going to override these conditions. I want you to hear that again. No amount of love is going to override these conditions. Why? Because your nervous system is fried. Okay. So you have to I keep saying protect the conditions. Get the phones out of the bedroom. Go to bed at the same time on purpose. That alone, where like one person stays up later than the other person, that's not creating conditions, y'all. That's not creating them, right? You're creating a routine, which is funny because we talk about not having a routine. You're having a wind down ritual. And the wind down ritual is about the two of you winding down together at the end of your day. In this situation, maybe even capping the conversations around work, right? At a certain hour of the day where you have dinner, right? You put the kids down, and then this is your time. It's one of my favorite things when my clients do tell me that, like, well, I don't go to sleep until 11 because once the kids are down, my husband and I like to sit and watch a show. Great, right? Great. And then also have that continue into the bedroom. And here's the thing, you are probably going to have to schedule sex. And that obviously does not sound sexy, my girls and guys. It's not. But scheduling sex is just acknowledging your current life, right? Sex is not going to happen on accident, right? But we still want it to happen. It's not going to just happen. Like I said, it's not just going to be spontaneous. So when we schedule it, we say this matters. It matters so much enough that we put it into our calendar. So, I mean, all of us schedule so many things. You schedule workouts, date nights, vacations, the doctor visits. The idea that sex should be one thing that just magically shows up on your calendar is going to fail. It is going to fail. So schedule it. The spontaneity has its place. You know, I think spontaneity oftentimes can happen on like vacations and here and there, but scheduling it and blocking it out just makes more sense for where you are in your life. Okay. So to bring it together, a quick recap for you, we reclaim ourselves as a sexual person individually, right? We have real conversations outside of the bedroom about sex. We rebuild non-sexual touch as a bridge to sexual touch, and then create novelty on purpose in and out of the bedroom. And then lastly, we predict. Holy hell, we protect. I don't know why my brain wants to say predict. We protect the conditions that allow sex to happen instead of just expecting it to happen. Okay. And notice the arc. We started inside of you. We started the conversation with you, then went to the physical reconnection. And for both of these podcasts, it might be deja vu, but it also might be you and what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. Do you guys catch that? I love a catchy slogan. That's what this is about. It's about you. Okay. So again, we start with you, then we move to the conversation between the two of you, then the physical reconnection, the experience that you share, and then we structure that into your life together. This will build outwards from there. So if sex has left your relationship, I hope this conversation has helped you understand that that is normal. There's not something wrong with you. There's not something wrong with your partner. There is not something wrong with the love you have between the two of you. What left your relationships are the conditions that support a healthy sex life. And nobody really noticed, right? Nobody really noticed. But the good news is that we can rebuild those conditions. We can rebuild them on purpose together. And here's something I want you to really hear is the people with healthy sex lives 30, 40, 50 years from now don't have some magical chemistry. what they have is they're the ones choosing over and over again to protect that part of their relationship. That is so important for you guys to hear. Not only protect it, but talk about it and prioritize it and not let it be the thing that gets pushed to the side when life gets lifey. That is the work. It is not glamorous. It's also not very sexy, but it's worth it. So I hope you guys enjoyed my first crossover episode. If this hit with you, share it with your partner or with your friend that's been dropping hints. I mean, listen, I went out with 3 of my girlfriends yesterday or 2 days ago, and we had a whole conversation. We had multiple conversations about it. And I know y'all are having those same conversations too when you guys are getting together. So share this with whomever you feel could benefit from it. As always, for both podcasts, this is a great opportunity to listen to each other. Obviously, it's just my voice, but it is a very different take because I wanted to have a dating and relationship podcast separate from the Mindset Mirror Connection, even though I also talk about dating and relationships there. So hopefully you guys will become subscribers of both if you haven't already. If you've been one of the 94% of people who listen to my podcast but are not subscribed or following, please please hit the subscribe button or follow along, and you're going to hear that over and over and over again. And if you're interested in doing any sort of work with me, check out the show notes below. And I'm going to leave you the same way that I always do, reminding you that what you see in your mind, you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.